So this is a quick little vid about the article that's being passed around, the Western States Pact article. The first red flag that I get out of this is that they're trying to separate Washington, Oregon, California from the rest of the nation, and they're trying to make it an us versus them. We're going to do what's best for us, not what the national experts are saying about this. And they're saying it was a choice that's being made by the entire state. And I don't remember ever getting asked. I didn't know that this was in planning. And I don't know anybody who got a choice in it. It's just the three governors. Granted, they're elected officials and they're in power, but they're trying to make it like we as a whole made the decision. And that's bullshit. We didn't make that decision. We never even got a say in it. And the fact that they're trying to separate the western states from the rest of the nation is, that's automatic red flag, because you have the experts, CDC, World Health Organization, on this, are not in our states. Like, we have a bunch of incompetent idiots in our states. So, last people that we should be making the decision are them. And they're saying in the article that COVID-19 doesn't follow state or national boundaries. We have to do what's best for us. We get to choose what's best for us. And they're going to use science, not politics, to determine that. There's that God of science. They're trying to make it like science is never wrong. But the whole point of scientific research and stuff like that is you got to be open to the fact that you're wrong. We once thought the earth was flat, and we had scientific data, if you want to say that's what it was, to show it. You could look out and see, oh, flat. But, since all science is open for interpretation and, more importantly, correction, as new information is discovered, as perspectives change, things that are incorrect gets thrown on the wayside. That's what science is. It's not a rock hard, this is it, no matter what. It's, this is what we understand as of right now. But if new information comes in that throws that out the window, we'll happily throw it out the window. That's what science is. And so it's nothing fixed. And they're saying it's going to use the rate of decline in new infections and deaths. But from what the CDC themselves has announced, like, they're just if it's suspected, they're going to say it's proven. They're already admitted, if you go to the National Vital Statistics information section under the CDC's very own website, if you assume, if you believe, if there's a small chance that COVID-19 had a play in their death, you mark all deaths as COVID-19 with no proof. So as long as you're allowed just to make up random shit, these numbers never going to decline. And that's a worrisome thing with this, because they're saying only when the data shows a decline are we going to lift these restrictions. But since they're the ones controlling the data, since they're the ones making up these numbers, they don't have to let go. And people, unfortunately, are brainwashed enough to happily give into it. And a lot of people are saying, they're the ones with the education, they're the ones in charge, let's listen to them no matter what. But the thing is, they're not listening to the people with the actual education on this subject. You hear it time and time again, all these doctors are trying to get interviews, infectious disease doctors, people who know what the hell they're doing, are trying to get interviews on the news and stuff like that to say, no, this isn't like it is, this is what we're being told to say. and they're just getting shut down left and right. So what's actually being passed around, like, we don't know what's right and what's wrong, which is very unfortunate that it comes to a point where you can't even trust your elected officials. We haven't been able to trust them much for a while now, but it's becoming glaringly obvious. And as you look around to all these alternative news sites and you start watching people's blog posts and podcasts and stuff like that, like, they're saying, hey, something's up with this. 1 and 1 somehow don't make 16. There's other things in the mix, which is good. Some people have wild theories backed by no proof. But I say, whenever something comes out, write down your first initial gut impression of it. And then go back through and look and examine every little part. Like the Western States Pact, like they're saying COVID-19 preyed upon our interconnectedness. Something like that. That just makes it seem more dangerous to the average person than it is. This virus has no brain. It can't say, hey, these guys have this interconnected commerce, so let's really jack them up. It doesn't work that way. It's a mindless thing. It just goes about its day. So, you got to really sit there and figure out what's true and what's not true. And they're saying the West Coast has an outsized stake in that. And, if they're saying an oversized stake in that, that's 100% not true, because, we're not getting hit as hard, supposedly. Even with them fabricating numbers, we're not getting hit that hard. And if this was a real pandemic, if we had a bigger stake in everything, as far as human lives go, they could be talking about economic-wise too, which is still not true, because we don't have nearly as many people on the West Coast as the East Coast. So, we don't really have an oversized stake. To me, whenever somebody exaggerates something like that, they're trying to make their part looks more important. They're trying to trump themselves up, make themselves look bigger. It's kind of like the old how people, when they're sitting around telling stories, you got that one jackass who always tries to one up everybody else. And this is what it seems like that whole paragraph was about. And so it's just bullshit. Unfortunately, a lot of people are going to sit there and believe. Saying that science, not politicians, are going to control how this pandemic is termed used loosely by me. How it's controlled, 100% not true, because these scientists are saying, why are you doing all this shit? It's not that bad. The people who actually know what they're doing, the actual infectious disease doctors. Yes, I believe COVID-19 is a disease. I've seen enough, I've heard enough, I've talked to actual friends of mine who are doctors, and, they trust where they're getting their information, because they have friends that are dealing with it firsthand, and I trust them. So that, to me, that trust is enough to say that, yeah, it's a real thing. I don't think it's a fake, but the numbers of it greatly exaggerated. Every expert, every actual true expert is saying that. And even the CDC is just saying, hey, according to vital statistics, we're just going to throw COVID-19 on all deaths that are respiratory related. Don't matter if they got a gunshot wound. No, it's not the gunshot wound. It was COVID-19. Don't matter if they got a car that fell on them and, crushed them and they suffocated. Like, nope, it's COVID-19. Don't matter if they have COPD and they're already on hospice, had to be COVID-19. Even though they did not test positive. Most of these people, they died without ever having a single test, but they're putting COVID-19 on it, and There are ones that one of the doctors released in Ohio. Forget the hospital. You could probably do some searching and find it out yourself if you're really so inclined, which I hope you are. There's people that tested negative, but yet their death certificates still say COVID-19. And it's like, oh my God. It's like, so you can't really trust any of the numbers. And just like in a court of law, if one part is dirty, if one person, if you have two people, if one person, if you're able to prove that they're lying and falsifying things, the judge by default has to assume that everything they say is a lie, unless there is a preponderance of evidence that says, okay, this one statement's true. But it's going to be taken by statement by statement by statement after that. Anybody's been through court for a legal issue, a civil case, whatnot, they're going to understand that. If you get caught in a lie, the judge won't believe a damn thing you're saying, and they shouldn't unless you can prove it. And this goes with this stuff. We're able to show that 90% of them is a lie. Who cares if 10% is true? You still can't take them as true because they have no evidence that it's a true statement that they died from it. So if you want to get super technical, they have 0 confirmed deaths from COVID-19, which I personally don't think is true. I do think there are some, but a fraction of what they're reporting. So these 3 governors, Washington, Oregon, California, are saying they're only going to release the restrictions, give up their emergency powers if the rate of decrease or the rate of decline in the number of new infections, like it just takes a sharp drop off. But since they're the ones in charge of falsifying these numbers, they get to decide. So it's not based on science. Science isn't controlling it. You got 3, not a bunch, 3 corrupt politicians who are in charge of that. And they will get rid of things, their powers, when they deem fit. And they said in the article that they're going to open up certain businesses as they deem fit. Again, science isn't in control of that. Doctors aren't in control of that. The politicians are. So they flat out lied in that part of the statement. And that's going to be based on who lines their pockets. It's the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And since they have no proof of anything that they're saying is going to be based off what the doctors are saying, and in fact it's going directly against what the doctors are saying, we got to go with their past behavior, which is lies and corruption. So they're only going to give things up when they choose to, if they choose to. And, unfortunately, there's not really much we can say about it. They're going to do what they're going to do. I'm going to continue to do what I do. And I hopefully, I'm not saying break any laws or do anything stupid and dangerous, but you should be living your life according to what you want to. It's an educated, calculated risk by you if you do anything, but listen to what the actual doctors are saying, follow their recommendations, and don't get stressed out. Just enjoy